Hi, hello. In this video, we are going to discuss about medico-legal importance of a wound, and followed by we are going to answer some medico-legal questions that arise while examining a wound. First and foremost question that arises whether the injuries have been inflicted during the phase of antemortem or after the death of an individual, and what is the role of histopathology, and what is the role of morphological findings, and what is the role of histochemistry or immunohistochemistry, what are their roles has been discussed, and followed by other legal questions like where the injuries have been lethal enough to cause a death, and followed by whether the injuries have occurred during a phase of resuscitation or prior to that, and how do we differentiate from a resuscitation injuries and other, and whether the injuries are sufficient in ordinary course to cause death of individual, and followed by whether which injury has been the main reason for causing death, how do we determine by examining those on a autopsy, and other legal questions like how long did a victim survive after being inflicted with injuries, whether he can able to perform any voluntary act after receiving injuries, and followed by degree of trauma, and what is the relationship between the trauma and the malignancy, and the relationship between trauma and the natural diseases, trauma and pregnancies have been discussed. Before going to the actual explanation of this video, first we need to know some technical terminologies. First and foremost is antemortem injury, perimortem, and postmortem injuries. First and foremost, what is antemortem injuries? Injuries that occur during the life of an individual. And here, any injury that occurs during the phase of life. And coming to perimortem injuries, the injuries that has been caused between the phase of somatic and molecular death. The word somatic death means a complete and irreversible cessation of functions of brain, stoppage of circulation, and cessation of complete respiration. And the word molecular death means progressive disintegration of body tissues with death of individual tissues and cells. So any injury that occurring between the phase of somatic and molecular death are termed as perimortem injuries, and the period between is known as supravital period. And here, any injury occurring during this phase highly difficult to differentiate whether it is an antemortem or a postmortem injury. With the help of other histochemistry and other, we can able to narrow down, but given interpreting and making a correct opinion regarding a perimortem injury or labeling an injury as a perimortem is highly difficult. And coming to the word postmortem injuries, means that any injury that occur after a phase of molecular death, right? Any injury occurring after molecular death is termed as postmortem injuries. And what are their significance? Most probably, first and foremost is while examining a wound, we will be determining the length measurement and other, and in the last column we will determine the age of the injury, whether injuries have occurred due to an antemortem period or a postmortem period. And in part we also describe the causative weapon, and followed by we mention that whether they are antemortem and postmortem in nature. Coming to the actual differentiation between antemortem and postmortem injuries. First and foremost point, an injury that occurring during lifetime is antemortem, and postmortem is after the phase of molecular death. And the first salient feature which will be able to differentiate is the word hemorrhage. In case of an antemortem injury, the hemorrhage will be abundant and copious in amount, but in case of a postmortem injury, it will be slight or totally absent. And in case of a nature of the bleeding vessel, Most commonly in antemortem it will be of an arterial bleeding, and in case of a postmortem it will be of a venous in nature. And signs of spurting, it means that due to the hemorrhage, the body as well as the clothes worn by the deceased will be stained. But in postmortem, because it is of a venous nature and the hemorrhage will be in a minute quantity, in a milder quantity, so there won't be any evidence of spurting. And coming to coagulation, where on the surface of the wound you can able to see a firmly coagulated blood will be seen. But in case of a postmortem wound, there won't be any no phases of clotting, or there won't be any phases of signs of coagulation present. And in extravasation of blood, where the injuries underneath the underlying soft tissues will show features of extravasation of blood. And when there been the washing or any method of cleaning, this mechanism will be this extravasation will be resisted, and the infiltration of blood and other will remain. But in case of postmortem wounds, where underlying tissues or underlying soft tissues won't be stained with blood, or there will be no extravasation, and even if it has been present, and if a minor within a minor force within a washing, these extravasations can be disappear from the site. So by which we can able to differentiate antemortem and postmortem injuries, and followed by other like the wound edges. Wound edges is swollen averted in case of antemortem wounds, but in case of postmortem wounds there won't be adequate gapping. Instead, edges of the wound will be closely approximated to each other. And in case of a vital reaction present, and in case of a postmortem wounds, the vital reactions will be absent. And in case of histological examination, where evidence of infiltration by leukocytes, macrophages, and formation of new capillaries, fibroblasts will be seen in case of antemortem wound, those will be absent in case of a postmortem wound. And regarding histochemical examination, there will be elevations of enzymes, other reactions that are occurring aftermath of an injury. But in case of a postmortem wound, there won't be no enzyme activity. And here in case the new terminology is vital reaction. Vital reactions has 5 components. First and foremost is first component of vital reaction is swelling. Second is effusion of limb. Third, leukocyte infiltration. Fourth, pus formation. 5 is evidence of repair or signs of healing. And here, first and foremost, swelling, classically seen on any injury caused by a hard and blunt object where corresponding or adjacent soft tissue show signs of inflammation and other. And here, leukocyte infiltration, purely a microscopical, and with the help of an histopathological examination, we can able to differentiate a antemortem injury from a postmortem injury. And other are where pus formation and evidence of repair, and purely when an individual in a state of living, where these reactions will be seen. If it been in case of a postmortem injury, these pus formation and other will be totally absent. And there are some factors which will make the intensity of a local reaction, increase the intensity of a local reaction or otherwise vital reaction. First and foremost is the severity of the injury. In case of severity of injury, if there been a mild injury present, there will be a minimal vital reaction, and if in case there been a severe dysfunction on the part of an injured part, then the vital reaction will be maximum. And the second factor that will affect local reaction is the vascularity of the injured part. If an injured part is being adequately vascularized, then the vital reaction will be maximum. And if in case where there will be a minimal vital reaction, the reason behind is the part will be of either which has suffered a less severe injury, or there been a compromise in the vascularity of that concerned part. And other governing factors which will affect the local reaction, the intensity of the local reactions are presence and or otherwise an absence of a foreign body or a bacteria or the other organisms. And here in case if there been a presence, then there will be more of the highly intensified vital reaction is seen. And first and foremost, here it has been a stab injury where edges are swollen and everted. And here other governing factors like there will be extravasation of blood seen on underlying soft tissues, underlying tissue planes. And second example, a case of an infected burns where you can able to see granulation tissues present and signs of healing have been seen. And here this been a normal part and this been at the injured traumatized part. And here where there been signs of repair has also been occurred. And here the yellow tissues are shown of pus formation or an infected area of a burn. And third example, where this is upon a postmortem aberration, right? Where vital reaction is seen, where even where there been a doubt, where you can make a cut section on the injured part, and if there been underlying extravasation, then it could be of an antemortem injury. But in case here, it is of a postmortem aberration, where there is no any vital reaction seen, right? And other example where it shows signs of healing or evidence of repair, right? A depigmented area, formation of scab, and a scab has been elevated from the site, and it is about to peel off and fall off from the site. And here it is a component of vital reaction. It is of evidence of repair. And coming to histopathological factors. Histopathological factors, how it will able to differentiate antemortem and postmortem injuries. First and foremost, any injury that are occurring due to a somatic phase of somatic death, there will be migrations and limited emigrations of leukocytes that occur, and followed by the corresponding tissue part will show tissue reaction. And here in case there will be a marked cellular extraction and reactive changes are seen. If these reactions are seen or if these have been present, then it is highly suggestive of an antemortem mode, and if it has been absent, then it is of a postmortem in nature. And coming to exceptions for histopathological changes, or there be an absence of tissue reaction, but if it suggests it be an antemortem injury, but there are three exceptions. For example, if in case due to an infliction of injury which has caused a sudden death of an individual, then the histopathological changes or exudation of leukocytes and infiltration of leukocytes will be minimal or nothing can be seen. And second, if there been small wounds, then the reaction, right, the vital reaction will be minimal. Then again, we can't able to make out the classical histopathological changes of an antemortem wound. And if third, again, an event that will cause a sudden death, a case of a circulatory shock or any features of shock, the most common, right, the vasovagal shock, where it has caused an instantaneous death of an individual, then again there will be minimal tissue reaction, and a classical features of an antemortem wound on a histopathological finding can't be elicited. And here for a mnemonic, you need to remember three S's, and these are exceptions for a tissue reaction. First and foremost is sudden death, second is small wounds, and third is shock. And coming to histopathological changes, and it is based on the time period. First and foremost, after an inflicted of an injury, and if it been in few seconds, the initial phase of vasoconstriction begins, and in few minutes fibrin appears and they enhance clot formation, and corresponding vasodilatation begins. And in 15 to 30 minutes, neutrophils appear, and 2 to 3 hours, macrophages appear on the site of trauma. And by 4th hour, basophil and mast cells, they lose their granules, and 4 to 12 hours, there will be leukocyte infiltration is markedly seen, and greater than 12 hours, there will be appearance of lymphocytes, monocytes, and there will be corresponding tissue edema seen on the injured part. And greater than 12 hours, again, another finding is swelling of vascular endothelium is seen. And by 15th hour, mitosis are seen, where increase in number of fibroblasts are demonstrated in histopathology. And if it has elapsed 24 hours after an injury, where there will be presence of leukocyte and forming in a marginal palisates in appearance, and followed by macrophages will be more comparatively to count of neutrophils. And if in case it has crossed more than 1.5 a day, where fibroblast proliferation is classic, will be seen in a larger quantity. And in case of 2 days, leukocyte infiltration at its peak. And in 3rd day, there will be appearance of new capillaries, and they are about to revascularize the traumatized site. And by 5th day, the collagen begins to form, and they enhance tissue healing and tissue repairing process. 8th day, there will be phases of lymphocyte infiltration. By 10th to 14th day, there will be decrease in vascularity and cellular reaction. And in case if a time period has crossed greater than 2 weeks, there will be increase in amount of collagen and elastin, and the vascular scar formation occurs, and scars become more dense and avascular in nature, and phases of scab fall and other occurs after greater than 2 weeks. Histochemical changes, right? This being an injured part, where there been a discontinuity in epithelia, and area adjacent or near to the wound site is known as central zone, and here often a 0.2 to 0.5 millimeter away or close to the edge of a wound, where there will be phase of negative vital reaction. Here the reason began, the corresponding part has gone for a phase of necrosis, and there will be a corresponding decreased enzyme activity. And in case of a peripheral zone, and which is immediately beyond this layer, where there will be a positive vital reaction is seen. And here in when this part of a tissue has been subjected, where there will be increase in number of enzymes, and the concentration is fairly high when you compare to a central zone. And here, and the points of importance are, if there been an application of an antiseptic agent for an tissue during phase of cleaning and other, which will not affect the vital reaction. And here in case if there been a query regarding the antemortem and postmortem nature of a wound, where an subjected the part which has been in query can be resected and can be sent for a histochemical analysis. And here, what is the exact amount of tissue to be collected? At least a 2 gram of a tissue to be collected, and here it should be divided on a subcutaneous fat layer, and a corresponding control site to be collected in case of for further examination. And here, if there been a delay in examining a wound, where the tissue that has been collected can be refrigerated to prevent phase of autolysis. Age estimation of a wound by histochemistry, and too much of numerical data and with associated findings highly difficult to remember, but by repeated reading and by making some sort of a mnemonic, we can master it. And first and foremost, by 10 minutes, where there will be an elevated in levels of enzymes like calpains, cathepsins, and serotonin level will be increased. And in phase of 30 minutes, histamine will be elevated, and by 1 hour ATPase and esterase level, and by second and fourth hour aminopeptase and acid phosphatase respectively will be elevated, and by 8th hour there will be increase in alkaline phosphatase level in phase of histochemistry. And in case of immunohistochemistry, it is a slighter modification where we also look for the proteins, enzymatic proteins that could have raised during a phase of an injured part. And here by the 6th minute P-selectins, and by 10 to 20 minutes fibronectin will be elevated, and by 1 hour E-selectin, and 1.5 hours where intercellular addition molecules 1 will be elevated, and by 2 to 3 days collagen levels, especially collagen 3, 5 and 6 will be elevated, and by 5th day collagen 1 will be elevated. And coming to other medical legal questions. So far we have discussed about the first medical legal question, how to differentiate a antemortem and postmortem injury. Second medical legal question we are about to address is, can a lethal degree of an internal trauma can be present without any external indication of a trauma? And here in case it means that there is a minimum or no external indication seen, but which has caused an internal trauma and the death of an individual. And here in case, first and foremost example is, if there been a blow over a part of a lower chest and upper abdomen by a steering wheel injury as a result of motor vehicle collision. And here in case need not to be where the external injury will be minimal if in case there been a sophisticated steering wheel with adequate cushion effect, or there been due to safety measures and by which the injury can be avoided. And here in case, second example where there been a injury caused by an act of smoothing, where with a pillow or any other external material that has been used, which will produce a minimal injury on part of deceased. So again, minimal injury, or there is no any significant external finding seen, but it is sufficient enough to cause an internal trauma, and that has caused a death of an individual. And here in case, as a result of manual strangulation, and there are multiple reasons, too early to know, and just remember as an example of manual strangulation, where it can cause only a minimal external finding, but there will be a corresponding high degree of internal trauma could be fatal. And other possible example is where an individual kneel upon on a part of an upper chest and or an abdomen part, where there been a kneeling and there been a dialogue exchange where it has caused a sudden death of an individual. On autopsy, it could be due to a transection of a part of an aorta, or due to a kneeling effect where it has caused a vasovagal death. And here in case, the external finding will be minimal, but in case of a vasovagal shock, where even the internal finding, corresponding internal finding will be minimal enough, and obviously leads to a negative autopsy. And here in case, any lethal injury where there been only a minimal finding seen on external part or counterpart, where there be a corresponding soft tissue, and otherwise in case of ribs, where a simple blow over part of chest region, where external injuries are minimal, but there been a presence of fractures of rib, and fractures of rib where a part of a broken rib act as a projectile, and the underlying soft tissues have been injured, and it causes lethal visceral injuries on part of lungs and heart, and where it has caused death of an individual. Resuscitative efforts produce injuries, and how to differentiate from the already injuries that has been present on the deceased. First and foremost, any sort of resuscitation in form of intracardiac injection or an act of CPR can cause an injury or can produce an abrasion or a contusion on part of an chest wall of an individual. And here in case it can also causes fractures of rib, fractures of sternum, and even extreme force can cause even the anterior wall of heart, and it can present as a contusion of a heart, and in extreme force of application where even contusion and laceration of liver is possible, and even in extreme cases a rupture of an heart and duodenum is also possible as an effort of resuscitation. And here in case any endotracheal intubation where the corresponding soft tissues can be injured, and where there will be localized tissue edema, effusion of or effusion or extravasation of the corresponding injured part is seen. And second such example, any intravascular catheters or cannulas can cause injury. And if these instruments have been removed prior to sending a dead body for autopsy, and if there have been less documentation in the treatment paper, and where an autopsy surgeon will spend more time to discover what could be the part here. And here in case a proper documentation or otherwise leaving the devices in situ where an autopsy surgeon can save his time. And here in case on the cannula, and if there been a history of hospitalization where it will be often a lesser in reason, where easily possible causative nature of injury can be estimated. And the other examples like by CPR, where there could be corresponding fractures of ribs, sternum, and even it can cause contusion of heart and the laceration of heart, and even a rupture of heart can occur. And the third medical legal question that arises of where if there been multiple injuries seen on an individual, and which of the injury is responsible for causing a death of an individual. For example, if the individual has received multiple contusion, or otherwise there have been multiple stab injuries seen on the deceased body part, and which stab injury is been vital enough to cause a death of individual need to be estimated and need to be opined. And here first and foremost, by doing a meticulous examination or examining each wound properly and noting the adjacent or underlying soft tissue that has been injured, we can able to give and interrupt this injury was the culprit that has caused a death of a individual. And here in case, take as an example, there have been 3 stab injuries on a part of a deceased, where one stab injury is noted on the chest region where corresponding underlying vital structures have been injured, and there have been another stab injury on part of a thigh, and there have been another stab injury on a part of an abdominal region. First injury on part of chest, second is on the part of thigh, third injury on part of abdomen, and out of which the stab injury that is present on chest is vital enough and it is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause a death of an individual, because there been a due to location it being a center of vital organs like lungs and heart. And here in case there been an injury on part of heart and a part of lung, then that stab injury is being responsible for causing death. The other stab injuries could have been adjacent causes for causing death, but the stab injury on part of chest is sufficient enough to cause a death of an individual. So these are other examples. First and foremost, the image on your left top corner and image on your left bottom. Alright, it is of a same individual where you can able to see a lacerated irregular injury on part of a forehead, and on the second image below we can able to see a pressure abrasion or a part of example is ligature mark on part of a neck of a individual, and here which has been vital enough for it and where it has compromised the vital organ to to delay or to undo their performance. And here in case this being superficial injury, right, underlying there could be even a corresponding fracture, right, and here in case there is no fracture also, so it is not that vital enough to cause death of an individual, where a force of constriction and presence of ligature mark, where it has lead to a respiratory compromise and it has collapsed the individual. So out of first injury and second injury is being responsible for causing death. And second example, right from the previous, right, there are multiple stab injury, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, out of 4 injury, which of the stab injury is vital enough to cause death of an individual, where stab injuries on part of chest are vital enough to cause death of an individual. Even they also contribute to death of an individual, but comparing the injuries 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, where 1 and 2 are sufficient enough to cause a death. And third example, where there have been only multiple lacerated injuries on part of an individual, and all injuries are not that vital or not sufficient enough to cause death when you take as an individually, right? If we take this injury as an individual factor and we are about to look for whether it is responsible for a death, it won't be, right? And same such applicable to other injuries, but collectively this all injury could have caused a death of an individual, right? Just an example where the other corresponding body parts have been not visualized. And other legal question we need to answer during a deposition in court of law. And most commonly we need to give a guarded reply, and here means highly difficult to open on this sort of questions, right? And purely it is often a subjective variation by the examiner, and even where victims of different age may show different patterns, and where a predisposing factor where there been a disease condition present on an individual will show a less amount of voluntary movements after receiving an injury, where a normal healthy individual after suffering a same amount of injury may show some voluntary movements after an injury. And here whatever the opinion we are about to give is a provisional opinion, right? It cannot be a conclusive opinion, right? And first and foremost, how long a individual been surviving after receiving a injury, right? And for example, if an injury been present on a frontal lobe, a severe frontal lobe, where it can prolong the survival period of an individual. And if in case there be an injury on a part of an occipital region, where there been an associated brainstem injury, where a vital center for vital functions like respiratory and other have been present, where an injury and there been even a minimal injury could have lost his consciousness, and there will be a compromise in the respiratory efforts of an individual, and here it is immediately incapacitating the individual, and where the voluntary acts of this individual will be minimal or no. But in case of an injury over part of a frontal lobe or front of forehead, where there will be a phase of prolonged survival, or any injury that causes a major injury on a part of a blood vessel, right? The injury which has caused a transection a part of an aortic arch, where there will be a minimum chance for an individual to perform a voluntary activity after receiving a injury. And here voluntary acts, what they signify, right? Like capable of speaking or calling for an help, or walking to make a phone call for a dear ones for an help, and these are about to mention relating to voluntary acts. And here in case if you take heart as an entity, where heart has gone for a stab injury, if there been an injury on a part of an atrium and part of a ventricle, where stab injury on part of auricles or the atrium, individual can't perform any voluntary act, because atrium is thin wall structure and it is of lesser in musculature, and a lesser power to seal the gap, and where there will be a corresponding hemorrhage present, where a voluntary acts of an individual is minimal or nothing is seen. And if there been a injury on a part of a ventricle where it is of a heavy musculature, and here in case a voluntary acts can be performed. And when you compare a right ventricle to left ventricle is relatively a thick structure, and where individual can perform on a voluntary act comparing to an individual has received a stab injury on a part of a left ventricle. Again, I repeat, it is a purely of a provisional opinion, and here it is part of a medical witness to state that it is a provisional opinion, right? And other factors governing are the mental power of an individual who has suffered an injury, and the age of the individual, and pre-existing disease conditions, and his past medical histories also contribute to the effort made by the individual after receiving a trauma. And coming to medical legal question we need to answer is, can we degree or quantify the amount of trauma received? Mild, it can be roughly estimated, and we can state that it could be of a mild, moderate, or otherwise severe or extreme injuries. And if in case a mild example could be a multiple abrasion seen, right? It fits into mild category. Moderate or in a severe category where there have been a presence of stab injury, there have been a fracture, or there have been an associated fractures of skull region and associated hemorrhages, then those injuries will be fitting into severe and extreme traumas. The other legal question we need to answer is, whether a wound can be altered from their original appearance? Yes, it could be altered. And first and foremost, regarding a living individual, and second we'll discuss about a dead person. First and foremost, in the living individual, yes, it could be manipulated or it could be altered by efforts of resistive measures or by features of showing healing and phases of treatment where the original appearance of the wound can be altered. And here resistation measures, where even resistation measures can also cause an artificial injuries. For example, in case of a dead individual, where it can cause, right, from the previous explanation, right, it can cause fractures of rib, contusion on part of heart, rupture of heart, those are seen. And in case of healing, on the course of treatment, right, the tissue has gone to phase of repair, revascularization of the injured part, and it has started healing and completely turned into a normal tissue after a phase of time, right? So these are alterations seen on a living individual. But in case of a dead person, other resistive measures have been explained. Right, coming to point on insects, animal, and features of decomposition. Right, and in case of insects, if there been an invention either by a maggot or any other insects which are harvested on the deceased dead body, they can modify the nature of the wound, and even they can modify the architecture of the wound. And if there been an entry of an animal, right, example, take as a dog or any other animal which eats on the flesh of the dead body, where it can cause artifacts where the architecture of a wound can be manipulated or can be altered. And if in case, right, if it been an invention by an ant, and it can cause nibbling marks, right, and by which we can able to differentiate the injuries from antemortem to postmortem. And if in case any injury that has been caused on a dead person will show features of postmortem, which will be categorized as a postmortem wound. And in case there will be no vital reaction, signs of healing, and other, and by which we can able to differentiate, right, whether it is of an original nature or if there has been any manipulation or alteration has been done on a part of a trauma. And coming to the last point towards decomposition, right? Yes, decomposition can also alter the nature of the injuries. And here in case examples like a presence of a postmortem purge or due to invasion by the maggots where the edges of wound could have been eaten up and highly difficult to interrupt, and those other possible sequelae can occur. Relationship between trauma and malignancy. Here, trauma merely calls an attention to a pre-existing tumor or a pre-existing tumor after a tissue disruption that has occurred as a result of a trauma, where a pre-existing tumor increases in size and spread more rapidly from the origin site to different sites, right? And even from the embolus, right? We have discussed about malignant emboli and other, where this dislodged tumor growth can present as an emboli and can cause a rapid death of a individual. And here the most common malignancy that can occur as a result of trauma is first and foremost is development of osteogenic sarcoma or osteoclastoma after an injury, or malignancy in case of a burn scar. And here it need a time period, right? It need a time period, and if there be an allegation on an accused, and where with the help of an Ewing's postulates we can counteract, and with the help of Ewing's postulate we can able to differentiate, and these are the points need to be presented, and by which the origin of a malignancy as a result of trauma can be proven with these 5 findings made by Ewings. And first and foremost, there should be evidence of previous integrity in part of an injured part. And second, undeniable adequate trauma must be proven. Third, there must be a proof of reasonable time interval between injury and appearance of trauma. Fourth, disease must develop at exactly at the site of injury. And point number 5, the nature of the tumor must be proved with a histopathological findings. If a trauma as well as a trauma associated with a malignancy has occurred, it should prove, we need to prove these 5 points by which we can able to link a relationship between a trauma and an associated malignancy that arise out. Relationship between trauma and myocardial infarction. And here the examples could be a blow or a physical trauma that has precipitated a myocardial infarction, or a functional disorder of heart in form of arrhythmia can occur. And here in a heart attack even can occur during course of work, or as a result of instantly after a normal progression of a chronic disease process, or otherwise due to an unusual physical or mental strain can provoke myocardial infarction. And here on documenting, right, even the injury could be of minimal in nature, but it has caused a fatality. And here other associated factors which will affect are the emotional upset of an individual, psychological factors of an individual can also contribute to death that can occur as a result of trauma, and which has resulted in myocardial infarction. And here the transient phase, there will be transient hypertension and tachycardia, even precipitate subintimal hemorrhages, arrhythmias, and other hemorrhages within the heart structure. The cardinal relationship between trauma and pregnancy. and it can occur about 7% of all pregnancy. And here in case, not only it causes maternal death but also associated fetal demise. And here, what is the reason behind, right? The physiological changes that has occurred in a maternal makes the pregnant mother vulnerable to trauma. And here the effects, when you compare by the statistics, where fetus are prone to death comparatively to the pregnant woman. And the factors, not only a trauma, could be an act even of a motor vehicle collision, or as a result of an fall or an assault by a third party. And here, due to increase in the circumference of the abdomen, where the most of the organs that have been present, even the pelvic organ or even the abdominal organs, have been there been a transient shift, and where the organs like spleen may be even engorged, and it can quickly dispose for a rupture, where even a minute quantity of force applied can even cause a rupture of a spleen. And other penetrating injuries can even cause a small bowel injury, and due to predisposing or otherwise due to the shift of organs during course of pregnancy. And here the expanding uterus may displace bladder, and bladder again is prone for a rupture as a result of trauma. And coming to point towards medical legal importance, there the other IPC you need to remember, it is 316 IPC. And here the accused or an offender can be punished for causing death of a quick unborn child as a result of or amounting to a culpable homicide. And here the punishment is for 10 years and associated with or without fine, and a cognizable offense, non-bailable, and non-compoundable offense. And here the attacker or the accused is also liable for the compensation for the pregnant woman or the relatives of the deceased. Relationship between trauma and natural diseases. Right, some natural disease may be present, which could be the actual cause of death, but the death could have been accelerated by the assault or by an injury. And here precipitating causes that can occur or due to slightest of violences like miliary aneurysm, fatty degeneration of heart, amoebic liver abscess, hydatid cyst, and enlarged spleen due to any of the disease condition can be precipitated as a result of a trauma, and where it can cause a sudden death of an individual. And here in case a fatty degeneration of heart and more likely to cause myocardial infarction, right? And a rupture of amoebic liver abscess, where an assault being present and where then been ruptures of abscess cavities and dislodgement of amoebic parasites from the site, from the native site to other parts, or otherwise other features of septicemia associated, and which has prolonged the illness and which has caused the death of an individual. And explanation for other two remains the same. This is the association between trauma and natural diseases. Thank you so much for your patient listening. If there have been any doubt, query relating to the content of the video, kindly address those in comment section below, and or even you can address your queries through social media links provided in the description section. Thank you.